Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the season of OT Theory, brought to you here by the Devil's Advocate. Just a little bit about the show. Supporting United on social media, as we're all aware, can sometimes be a bit heavy, and it can be fraught with negative agendas and things that don't really make you feel good about supporting your football club. You know, whether it's certain people doing interviews with Piers Morgan, whether it's the discourse surrounding the takeover or anything else that I'm not prepared to give any airtime to. So this is a little space in the internet just to have some nonsensical discussions, have a bit of fun, and to remind ourselves of the laughs we can have supporting this club. So there's no agendas, there's no negativity. It's just nonsense that we can all get behind. I'm joined tonight by a fantastic panel. As you can all see there, we've got Stu, Mark, Nathan, and Benny. Fantastic to have you back with us, Benny, as well. Really good to have you on the show. Hope everyone's doing very well. The premise for tonight's show, then, as you'll have seen in the description, is as a club, United have often been linked with many, many players over the years. Obviously, some have been a bit more concrete than others. And tonight we're going to try and come up with a definitive best 11 of players that have almost put their signature on the dotted line for United, but never quite got there. This isn't going to include, you know, the clickbait links, the ones where they can use us to get contract talks. This is ones that have some weight and some legs. We're going to try and decide, get involved in the comments if you've got any ideas, and fingers crossed by the end of the show we'll have a fantastic 11. But yeah, fantastic to have you all with us. Stu, how are you doing tonight? Are you doing well?
Yeah, good. Got a win today, lads. So tips and time bets, come on, get in, have it. So yeah, I'm good. All good.
Excellent. Mark, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm all right, thank you, matey. I arranged this week to go for a meal, a candlelit dinner with Stu in a couple of weeks, so I'm really happy about that.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Yes. Nathan, my man, it's our first time being on a show together. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, man. Yeah, really looking forward to this. I didn't get invited to that candlelit meal. I'm wondering, is that invitation in the post or is it
invite only? I'll send you one, mate. How about that?
We'll send you one. If it's got lost, we apologise.
No, that's all right. I'm sure it will come.
And then Benny, last but not least, fantastic to have you back, my man. How are you doing?
I'm all right, mate. Thank you for having me on. Really looking forward to this show. And I missed you guys, though. It's been a while since we've all been on together.
Yeah, isn't it? It's like the old days, DL.
Yeah, it is.
Right. So we're going to kick things off then. Without staying away from the agendas, you know, obviously we lost our long-standing goalkeeper David De Gea this summer. You know, it was a legend by every name of the every description of the word. You know, he won multiple trophies with us, and you know, I know a lot of us were sorry to see the back of him, and we wish him the best. But that seems like a good place to start with multiple players. You know, the club over the course of the years have had some fantastic goalkeepers. We've had some less great goalkeepers, looking at Massimo Taibbi and the likes. But there's obviously some goalkeepers that we had a look at that never quite got over the line. Now, Stu, I'm going to come to you first here. Ooh. Who was your first proposal for the Almost United 11?
Well, I've nailed it down to four goalkeepers. And
I was lucky to get one.
I'm going
two.
I only managed to find one as well.
Yeah, I'm going to put in as the first entrance of the Almost United 11, and that is Sir Neville Southall. One hell of a goalkeeper. 1991, I believe. I think we put in a bid of 500 grand for him at the time. He was a two-time Division 1 winner under Howard Kendall, and he was absolutely tremendous. He was at the top of his game at the time. Everton were looking at a younger goalkeeper. It didn't actually materialise, hence the deal didn't materialise. And so, yes, so Neville Southall is my forward put. And I will add a small caveat to Francesco Toldo in 1990. We were linked with him, but I don't know too much about him. So Neville Southall is my pick because he was absolutely out of this world. Superb goalkeeper.
Fantastic suggestion. Stu there with the annals of history. That's why he's always good to have on these shows.
Yes.
So Mark, Nathan, you both said you had one keeper. Mark, I'll come to you first. Who was yours?
Francesco Toldo. So after Schmeichel obviously left in 1999, went to Sporting Lisbon, there was concrete talks with Fiorentina. He later decided to go to Inter Milan, but by all accounts was very, very close. And unfortunately, as you spoke about earlier, we ended up signing Taibbi, and then a year later, Barthez. So that was my suggestion.
The original sweeper keeper, Fabian Barthez.
Yes. Yeah. Well, actually, Stepney, probably. I would say Stepney was a bit before that one, Jamie.
Yeah, true. But I mean, watching Fabian Barthez do Cruyff turns on the halfway line and giving us heartburn before Rennie had been invented. Nathan, it was your one keeper. Who did you have?
I don't know whether we had concrete talks about him, but Manuel Neuer. I don't know whether that got any.
We had concrete talks.
So apparently, it was him and De Gea at some point. So
that's right.
Can you imagine if we managed to go for that instead? But De Gea.
So I think Luke Steele, but from what I understand, had chats with Ferguson. They'd both gone to watch both Neuer, and he sort of came on the scene very late. And Luke Steele was like, "No, we've Eric sorry, we've absolutely got to go for David De Gea." And Ferguson said to him, but Neuer, come onto the scene. Schalke would be happy for us to get him, and he's the ready-made unit. But Eric was obviously, no, we've got to go for him. And then when they went to watch him, I think it was against Valencia, they were like, you know what, agility, reactions, all this kind of thing, we'll go for him. And obviously it worked out quite well in the end. So.
Yeah, the spot on to the words on my mouth. Neuer was one of my shouts, and Victoria's Secrets there obviously listing Neuer as one of the options. Benny, any advances on anything that's been mentioned so far?
Jonathan stole my in the comments stole my floodlight, my spotlight there. I said I was going to go for Navas because obviously with the De Gea contract situation. Another one that popped into my head was Peruzzi. Time. I don't think there was anything concrete there, but when there was looking for a replacement with Schmeichel, it seems Italy was the hotbed of goalkeepers at that point. You had Van der Sar, obviously, Toldo, and you had a number of different goalkeepers all around Europe there, all around Italy there that we sort of looked at. So I don't know how much truth or concrete the rumours were in Peruzzi, but Jonathan, he stole my little thing there of Navas, but fair play.
Well, Navas was on the plane, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was crying his eyes out.
Crying, yeah.
So one that for me, no one's mentioned, and I'd have loved him, was Oliver Kahn. Came out and said that United had approached him. There'd been concrete talks in 03-04. He says that he come out and said on several occasions that he actually regrets not joining United. My only caveat to this one being that if we'd have signed Oliver Kahn, I highly doubt we'd have then signed Van der Sar in 2005.
Correct.
So you almost end up on a completely different trajectory of history there, and you end up getting into like a Marvel what if, but a Man United version. Oliver Kahn, though, obviously he's one of my favourite goalkeepers ever. I thought he was an imperious figure. He ended up obviously going on to retire at Bayern Munich, and he had a fantastic career, didn't he? Apart from, he's often said that he's shut out the last 2 minutes of the Champions League final in '99. His memory doesn't allow him to remember that.
Played a charity game. It must have been a Bayern Munich Legends game against United, and even then he was still unbelievable. This is still
Old Trafford. It was Old Trafford.
Yeah, Old Trafford. Yeah. Yeah, it took me 12 hours to get home, but I got home in the end. But
He was
a great goalkeeper, even in the charity game.
So, first, the first position of the evening then. So we've had Neville Southall shouts from Stu, good shouts. We've had Toldo, we've had Keylor Navas, Oliver Kahn, and Manuel Neuer. So there's some fantastic keepers there. Now, the problem we've got now is that we need to narrow it down to one, and who starts in goal for this nearly United 11. Now, Stu, I'm going to come straight back to you and ask you for the your finale statements on Neville Southall. Because I get the feeling you think he's the one that should go in.
Yeah, look, I had Neuer, Keylor Navas down as well as Toldo, but for me, you had an all-round presence with Southall. There was no dicking about with him. There was nothing flash about him. What he was very Pat Jennings-esque. He was a goalkeeper. He was a stopper. He was commanding. He was big. He was brash. He was bold. He was brave. and he was everything that epitomised what a goalkeeper was back then. Obviously, it's totally different today because they want posers between the sticks, people who can do Cruyff turns, etc., etc., etc. But Southall epitomised it. If I had to make a choice out of all of those, Southall wins it for me, because as a centre half, when I'm looking behind me, he's exactly what I want to see, because you're just comfortable, you're confident. He's going to cut the gap down between you and or kind of any kind of free space. So for me, Southall wins. Otherwise, I would have gone with Neuer. But Southall for me is the one.
Does anyone want to challenge him? His passion exudes in everything he says. So
it does. It's always very difficult to challenge Stu, to be honest. Yeah, but listen, as I said, it was a bit of a difficult one for me. Obviously, we had the Manuel Neuer, or the kind of Van der Sar the first time round. I think that was obviously, we can still talk about that. Great, he came to us probably a little bit late, really, and he still did wonderfully. But I can't disagree with Neville Southall. I was 3 years old at the time. So I don't really remember enough. I do remember he was a massive presence, and I can't argue with it, I think Manu Neuer would obviously be another good one.
Nathan, Benny, are we happy to go with Neville Southall?
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I'm not arguing.
Right, Neville Southall gets in. Fantastic. We're off to.
Well, it's worth pointing out, Big Norm had him in 1985, didn't he, Benny?
Oh, he certainly did, mate. Did he just?
Big Norm had him then.
Right, moving on then to one of the most difficult positions I found when I was looking through all of this, and even just from memory. We'll go to right back, and I found one or two tenuous links, and there was a couple of sort of solid links. Does anyone want to kick us off? Is anyone that's managed to get quite a few right backs? Because I'm sat here with one.
I've got one.
Yeah, I've got one as well. It was a tough one.
I wonder if we've all got the same one. Stu, Benny, either of you got more than one?
Well, there's two for me, and there's a dual player within that, which is Philippe Lahm.
That's right.
He's a dual player. He can play right back or play left back. So let me remove Lahm out the equation, and you've got to look at Alphonso Davies. We were linked with him, and he almost came on trial to us in 2018. I'm pretty sure he was invited to a 3-week trial. We were heavily linked with Alphonso Davies, and I was devastated we didn't get him, because he is one hell of a right back. So I'm going to throw Alphonso Davies into that mix.
I respect it. Obviously, he operates as a left back, doesn't he, primarily for Bayern, but
just for Bayern, but Canada's right side. I think he plays right side, doesn't he? Canada can play in the middle as well, if I'm not mistaken. So,
Philip, a lot of us agreed on Philip Lahm.
Alex in the comments is saying Cafu. I wasn't aware of this one. Is that?
I wasn't aware we were linked with Cafu. I think we wanted Cafu, but as fans, but I don't recall a link. I do recall a link to Trippier, obviously in 2021.
Yeah. The Trippier one was massive, and then we got priced out the move, and then he moves for about a quarter of the price that we were quoted to the tune. The Dani Alves one that Jonathan O'Neill's shouting in again. Danny, it's one of those that in my brain it's a tenuous link that we were sort of used as a negotiating chip.
We were never going to get Alves. Never. Do
not for one second underestimate the fact that I would have loved Dani Alves to come and play for Manchester United. But yeah, so a few of us there on Philip Lahm. Mark, talk to me about Philip Lahm.
I mean, what can you not say about him? What a wonderful captain for club and country. Very versatile player. Unbelievable at free kicks. He would have been a wonderful player. We haven't had too many German players. We were all excited about Bastian Schweinsteiger coming in. I think it would have been nice to have had Lahm and he even coming in early. And I mean, it's a shame that one got away. But he was an absolute force for Bayern, and particularly in the Champions League too. Yeah,
I mean, obviously, when he was on loan at Stuttgart, They played against us in the Champions League, you know, and he was probably the best player, at least for them, on the night. And, you know, it was us and Barca.
Yeah, great player.
Nathan, Benny, any
No, I've always the same.
any advances on
just Philip Lahm for me, just an unbelievable club and country captain, just a real professional all throughout his career. Unbelievable.
Definitely Lahm, absolutely no question.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's got to be up there with one of the best right backs of all time, if I'm honest. I think he was absolutely sensational. So I think it's an absolute crying shame that we didn't get him for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Can't argue with it.
Yeah. Sorry about I just think I had a slight hiccup with the connection there. Philip Lahm then. Are we all agreed?
I think it's a shoe-in.
Yeah, agreed.
He's a shoe-in.
Yeah. Right. Nice and simple. The keeper debate was a bit longer than the right back debate, but Philip Lahm, you can't go wrong with Philip Lahm. Right. Moving on then to left back. Now, obviously, we said pre-show that I struggled. Well, a few of us struggled to find left backs, and then Stu hit us with an absolute blast from the past that I completely forgot about. Yeah, and it was you know, such a solid link that we spent so many summers chasing him.
There's a couple for me actually. My pick is Stuart Pearce, obviously, because he would have been absolutely phenomenal for us. But I think he would have run close by Leighton Baines. We were heavily linked with Leighton Baines when Moyes came in. We were also linked, if you recall, at a left back by the name of Gareth Bale from Southampton at the time, and we were heavily linked, and we went for Bale. We didn't get him, but for me, without a shadow of a doubt, by the way, Philip Lahm, although he's in at right back, he could have played left back for us. Alphonso Davies again could have played left back for us, but for me, unquestionably, the greatest left back I think would have been Stuart Pearce, and he is my pick.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that, really. I couldn't find many for left back, but when I saw that we would link heavily with Stuart Pearce at some point, it was, well, hands down, he's got to be a shoo-in. Like we said about Lahm, he's unbelievable. Crazy player. Unbelievable. Good.
Centre backs, is it? Sorry, I wasn't sure.
No, still left back yet.
Left back.
Left
Okay,
back.
yeah. So obviously Leighton Baines was really the only one I had, in all honesty. So I can't really, I couldn't wrap my brains for many moons ago, to be honest. Yeah, but Leighton Baines is the only one I really had, boys. So sorry to disappoint.
Yeah, well, you better than me because I only had one. I had none. I didn't even have one. I had none. So coming up with one is better than that. Fabio Coy. That's a great shout.
We lost him a little bit, I think.
Yeah, we lost him a bit there.
I think what he's going to say, and I'm just going to take over. I hope he doesn't mind. Jonathan's made a really good point here. Contral.
Yeah, really forgot about that. That was
totally
really close, wasn't it? That was
extremely.
He was close on loan, wasn't he? But
that's right.
He's got nothing on Pearce. Nothing.
Oh no.
That blonde, poncy looking hair, that stupid fake tan.
What colour did he have? A multicoloured football boots as well? Is that
probably.
Where you go next?
Yeah, probably. He's got nothing on Pearce as a proper true left back. Nothing on Pearce.
Yeah. Right. Do you want to carry on for a minute, Stu, until Jamie's back?
So where are we landing at? So we've got Southall in goal, unanimously Philip Lahm, and left back. Where do you want to go then, lads? I think it's obviously between Pearce and Baines, I would say.
Yeah, I would say obviously Pearce. I think he was a far better player, and I think that, as I said, racking my brains, very difficult to think further back than what I come up with, and I was really struggling for this position. So obviously, I'm in agreement with everyone else's. If anyone's got any other suggestions, maybe in the comments, let us know. But yeah, Pearce for me, I think.
Yeah. Lizarazu. Yeah, we were linked with Lizarazu, wasn't we? He's a bit too. Some of their fullbacks, like Gareth Bale, Quantraro, whatever he's called, Lizarazu. They just lack passion. They're good footballers in their own right, but they lacked aggression. They lack passion. I mean, Julian Dix type player, Stuart Pearce. You get round me once, but you don't do it again, mate. And that's how it is. So, Nathan, what do you think? Baines or Pearce?
I'm going with Pearce. Has to be.
Okay, so we got Southall in goal and Philip Lahm and Stuart Pearce. So, Nath, we'll come to you then, pal, because centre back. Wow, this will be interesting. Who what's your pick and why is he your pick?
So my pick was just lit up there in the comments is Virgil van Dijk easily, because I believe it was between him and Lindelof at the time. We went with Lindelof, but you can't really argue with how Virgil van Dijk's been. He's been, as much as it's difficult for all to admit, he has been unbelievable in that Liverpool squad. Really helped them along the way in those title runs and Champions League wins. So for me, he's got to be up there in the conversation for sure. Yeah. I couldn't find many for centre back. I couldn't find many. Maybe more than there's probably more out there than I could find.
Yeah, I think there's a few out there. Mark?
Yeah. I obviously, I know I did have a couple, but obviously Jamie mentioned at the beginning of the show, sort of not using us as a contract thing. I think Sergio Ramos is a massive one. But I'm going to go back to, I'm going to kind of stick to what I had earlier, really. Raphael Varane, the first time when he came from Lens, he was so close to joining United back in 2011. And of course, that famous saying, we signed Phil Jones, and even Varane joked about that when he first came in. I think that's also, I mean, listen, arguably one of the best centre-backs ever again. I'm not saying up there at the top, but certainly in a group of players. And, if we had got him in 2011, not over Phil Jones, just if we did, imagine, what we could have sort of built upon then. And of course, we've got him. We're going to get a couple of good seasons out of him. We saw that last season, and at least it's better late than never, right? So that would be another one of mine.
Yeah, look, I got Van Dijk in. I looked at Varane. I didn't put Varane in. I didn't put Ramos in because I think he used this for contract negotiations as well. John Terry, as somebody's put, was linked with us as a free. But for me, Van Dijk makes the team. If it was me, Van Dijk makes it for sure. Benny?
Everyone in the comments is still in my thunder. Lilian Thuram was a heavy. I know Ferguson was a massive fan when he was at Parma. Yeah. And again, once again, I don't know how concrete rumours are, but that was one that was always back when you used to look at the back of the newspapers and on the old teletext and CFAX. That one was always there for a couple of summers. Thuram really top centre half in his day. But that's the one that I came up with, and the other one was obviously the Sergio Ramos one. But obviously, like you said, it was more to do with his contract and more talks about that, than anything really properly concrete. So Thuram was the one that I went for.
Yeah, I mean, honourable mentions. I think for Matthijs de Ligt, hugely linked with de Ligt. Honourable mentions to him. Honourable mentions to Fabio Cannavaro.
Yeah, he was my number one pick. Sorry as well for cutting out, by the way, mate. I think
no. We'll come to you in a minute, Jamie. And honourable mention to, and Benny's gonna love this one, Paolo Maldini. Honourable mention.
I'd have had him at fullback. That's fine.
I don't know whether the links. It's a tenuous link, I think, but it's an honourable mention. But sorry, Jamie. So we've got Virgil van Dijk. We've all kind of agreed on. I don't know where you sit with that one.
Scouser, but phenomenal. I'll back him.
The only thing I'll say about him, and listen, this isn't my bias getting involved. I thought in that season he came in, he was absolutely wonderful. But he's dropped off so much. Now, he didn't go to Liverpool late in his career. He's still got a few years. And I just feel, and again, maybe people are going to say to me, biased, probably, okay? But I just feel that if he could have done that for maybe 2 or 3 years at that level, then we can absolutely have him in the same discussions of others.
He had that
injury,
though, didn't he? He had that really horrible injury where he was out for so long.
Yeah. So's Varane. So did Maldini. Do you know what I mean? I just feel that there are better ones there, and I think we've named a few more, in my opinion. In my opinion, as I said, this isn't biased. If he'd done it a couple more years, maybe, but I feel like there's better ones there, what we've said.
So, just obviously, because I missed out on a few minutes out while I relocated to try and sort the connection out. So, we had a discussion about Van Dijk. Were there any other notable ones mentioned?
Varane, the first time I said, when he...
that's a cop-out. That's a cop-out. He plays for us now.
It's not a cop-out. Yeah, no, but I was just going on what I said earlier. It's do you know what I mean? He nearly joined us, very close. And imagine what we'd got out of him, if he had joined us earlier. I feel like it's a fair one.
If we signed Varane the first time, we would not have got the single best display of defending I've ever seen in my life. Phil Jones scuttling across the grass like Smeagol trying to catch the ring, heading the ball off Giroud's shin. Phenomenal bit. So my two then, if you don't mind, if I just jump in. The two that I really sort of narrowed it down to, because there's a massive pool of centre halves that we've been properly linked with. Cannavaro was the one for me. Now Cannavaro is for some reason my favourite defender of all time. I absolutely adore him. Winning the Ballon d'Or as a centre half. Whether people, I know there's a discourse around whether people agree with it or not, but I think he was fantastic. And obviously there was that. We did try and buy him from Parma in 2001.
Correct.
28 million pounds. Did my research on this one to make sure I come with as many substantiated points that I could. 28 million pound in 2001, which is a ridiculous fee when you think about the market at that point. But worth it for a Ballon d'Or winning centre half eventually. And he left in the following year to actually go to Inter for 23 million. So, but then again, it's one of those the same career trajectory. But Cannavaro for me, if he'd have gone to United, what a football player he'd have been. I mean, he was a miraculous, beautiful footballer anyway. But if he'd have played for Fergie, Jesus. And then the other one was Kompany. I don't know if anyone mentioned Vinny Kompany. So this is a story I remember at the time. So obviously, when he was at Anderlecht, when he was a kid, we tried to sign him from Anderlecht, and he had massive interest in us. And his mum said no because he was doing his A levels, and she wanted him to focus on his education just in case football didn't work out for him. Obviously, you can say the football sort of worked out for him in the end. Do you know what I mean? Imagine if he'd have come and joined us instead of, I think that City, because I think he was so key to what City built and turning them into the side that they eventually became. And he is rightfully a Premier League legend. He's one of the best centre halves I've ever seen play football. And if he'd have come and played for us, it'd been a different story. The only thing is the Scousers would have won the title that other year. When he scored that ridiculous thunder strike against Leicester.
That's right. Yeah.
So if it had played for us, the Scousers win the title. So it's swings and roundabouts. You know what I mean? But yeah, so they're my two.
We got to vote then.
Ben, I think Benny's also having a few.
By the way, we had Stuart Pearson at left back. You happy with that?
Yeah, I'll take that. I think Leighton Baines was quintessential period of United, so he could have been a really quintessential United signing. In with his bloody mutton chop area. There's Bradley Wiggins trim, looking like a Fisher Price man for months. He'd have come in well, but I'll take Pearce. We're building a super team here. So there's two centre half spots. Then obviously, Virgil van Dijk is. I'm hearing most people want Virgil van Dijk in there. Mark's a little bit hit and miss with it.
No, listen. As I said, I feel like he was sensational in that 1.5 seasons. And it is a shame that we probably didn't sign him. But I just feel like we've named some better ones there. I really do.
I mean, I'd chosen Cannavaro and Van Dijk, but I'm quite willing to ditch Van Dijk, but not Cannavaro. I'm not willing to give up Cannavaro.
Can we all agree that Cannavaro goes straight in there? Yeah. Thank you very much.
I'm not willing to give him up. No, he was too good.
Yeah, he was a phenomenal centre half. So, Mark, if not Virgil van Dijk, then who would you rather have? And we can put it to the test.
Well, my only other one, and contrary to anyone else in the comments or anyone I said Varane the first time round, I just wanted to highlight that how close he was to joining us. And no, I don't agree. The Van Dijk I don't believe should be in there, but all for debate, innit? I can't settle on another one, so I think give it to Benny, and he can finalise that for us.
Just a quick
Pressure on Benny.
John Silk's in the comments, I think, talking tennis, and he was definitely putting Nadal in. Definitely.
Hey, that's another show we've got lined up about nonsense stuff. Is if they weren't footballers, what would they do? And if they weren't, other athletes, where would they fit in a football pitch?
Yeah.
So
sorry, Benny.
We'll get onto that. But Benny, go on, give us a centre half.
Well, I said Thuram earlier, and I just think Thuram and Cannavaro would have been a hell of a partnership. Because I'm not having Van Dijk. I'm sorry, can't have
Thank you, Benny.
I know. I'm with Mark. I just can't be. I mean, he's a great player, Van Dijk. But to be fair, the last couple of seasons, he's not been all that great. To be honest with you, he's not really held at a consistent level for me. Great player on his day. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I just think that Thuram had it all for me. Again, I'll hold my hands up. I don't know how concrete the links were with Thuram, but
I've just checked. And they were very concrete. It looks as if it was another one of those things.
I know Fergie really did take a good liking to him back in the day. I'd go with Thuram. But obviously, it's got to be. We've got to vote on it, haven't we? So, But if I had to pick and have my little shout out, it'd be Lilian Thuram.
My only problem with a Thuram Cannavaro centre half is there's only so much Rolls Royce you can have in a defence, and they're both. I'll
take that comment.
But you know what? I think that's a phenomenal pairing. But my thing is that they're both exquisite. They're like fine wines, the pair of them.
Yeah.
For me, there needs to be a shot of tequila. Centre half in there. But we're not talking about necessarily practicality and the functionality of the starting 11. I'm game to go with Lilian Thuram. The guy's a legend.
I'm happy with Thuram.
Trevor, man, good to have you back in the comments. Now that Weghorst isn't here anymore, you're gonna have to find another agenda to push.
He's coming back, isn't he? Oh yeah, he's coming back, isn't he, Weghorst?
I actually heard that Trevor is Weghorst's burner account, and he was just checking that he's loyal to him. Do you know what I mean? That's all it was. Yeah, I just got on the blower to Fabrizio then and to Ornstein. So right. So Thuram, we're happy with going. Apologies, Mark.
No, honestly, I'm absolutely fine with that. As I said, I've given my shouts, and I'm happy with Thuram, and I'm happy with Cannavaro. I think both wonderful shouts.
Fantastic. So the next step then is as we move past the back four what I'm getting is there's quite a classic feel to this United team, this almost United 11. So I'm going to propose that we go for the 4-4-2 then rather than the 4-3-3.
Yeah.
Just to really rubber stamp a bit of history on it. We'll start off with the centre mids. Now for me, and this is the only time I'm going to start with myself, is there's an absolute non-negotiable in here, and it's Gaza. Yeah. Gaza has to go in this side. We were so close to signing him, and then Tottenham came in and offered to buy his parents a house, and he chose to go. And obviously, wonderful footballer. He had a fantastic career, but there is, and Fergie said it himself, there is that thing of what could have been. If Fergie put his arm around him, and he had that level of discipline that Fergie would have given him, would he have gone a little bit down a different path? But for me, he's one of the greatest football players of all time in terms of how technically proficient he was. He was an absolute wizard, and it was a shame that he had these issues off the pitch and stuff like that. But what a baller! But for me, as long as we're all agreed, Gaza goes straight in.
Well,
he's amazing.
I had Gaza,
yeah.
And then I had this brick wall in front of me of absolute quality. I looked at the crooner, Tony Cruz, who's tremendous. Cesc Fabregas, tremendous. Let me just look through my list because I had so many.
I've got a few as well.
Balak, Essien. But I'm going to go with, for my second pick, because Gaza was a lock for me as well, by the way. Zidane. It has to be Zidane for me.
Yeah.
And I'm so gutted I can't put the crooner in because I love Tony Cruz.
Yeah. The thing with Zizou was it was the same time, wasn't it, that Fergie was going back to try and convince Cantona to come back and play for us after
Cantona
suspension.
Cantona wanted Zidane. Yeah.
But, and it was one of those that, but I think Fergie was worried that Zidane would operate in the same space as Cantona, and you can't really argue against Zizou, man. Like, but Mark, you look like you're going to come in and say something there.
Yeah, listen, they're not all amazing players, but of course there's a hell of a lot. We're linked to obviously Caicedo. We could have got him for 4 million a few years ago. I'm not saying that he's established, but that was one that Ed Woodward, the tosser, vetoed. Obviously Wesley Sneijder, we've all been there, but there were 3 different occasions. One in 2011 from Inter, one again in 2016 when Mourinho took over, and one again in when he was at Galatasaray. And he said that he thought about it, but he didn't want to not play in the Champions League.
The rumours are that he's still having coffee with Alex Ferguson in Old Edge.
That is true.
Stu took one of mine as well. Michael Essien, very, very close in 2001, ended up choosing Chelsea 17-year-old back then. Aaron Ramsey was another one.
He was one of mine.
He was, I think, Cardiff put on their website that he had signed with the United. We'd agreed a deal, and then it all sort of changed last minute.
So we had it on ours.
Was it on ours?
Literally, we only got rid of it about a year ago. Like, it was up there. Even, he'd gone for his entire career playing for Arsenal, and when he went to Juventus, blah blah blah. And you could still, if you just Googled United sign Aaron Ramsey, it brought you to the MUFC official website, and there was an article on there about us agreeing a fee for the talented Welshman, and that he'll join up with us and stuff like that. But yeah, nuts, absolutely nuts. Benny, Nathan. Sorry, go on, Mark.
I was just thinking, I think you'll probably have him on the right-hand side, but I probably would prefer Ronaldinho to play as attacking midfielder in the 3. It's in my opinion. Like, I know you'll probably say loads of people will say it's on the right, but I thought attacking midfielder could be an option for him. He was great, Roman.
We've got a whole conversation to have about Dino, and let's not jump the gun. Let's stick with some proper centre mids for now. We're playing 4-4. F into, look at me not swearing because Keane's asked us to not swear. So Benny, Nathan, anything else at centre mids wise? Mark's rattled off a few there.
What about Mikel? He was pictured in a Manchester United shirt as well. Obviously, not within the class that you lads have all talked about, but he was always the biggest shout, a big shout for being in midfield. Michael Ballack was another one. Who ended up at Chelsea as well. There was big talks over Ballack, wasn't there?
Huge talks
over Ballack. So they're the 2 that spring to my mind. But I think you lot have once again topped me there a little bit.
Nathan, anything from you there?
I had the one I can pair with was Tony Cruz. That was the one I was pretty, but. He was an unbelievable player and still is. Yeah, he would have been up.
I do feel bad for David Moyes. It's not often that sentence will leave my mouth, but that interview he gave where everything was done, he was ready to join, and then obviously
they got him.
And you just think, and we ended up, and again, no disrespect to Fellaini, cult hero. He did a job, but going from Tony Cruz to Marouane Fellaini is it's a little bit like Margot Robbie dumping you, and you end up with a fleshlight. But
sorry, he's talking from past experience, boys.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that I have a lot of experience in that instance. Look, there's some great shouts there, and I'm glad John Obi Mikel got the limelight there because I think again that's such a hilarious saga. When you think about the fact that, like Benny said, he's there in a United shirt, ready at a press conference. And there's reports that Chelsea actually had to buy him out of his contract with us.
They did.
To then go and sign him. Yeah.
They paid us 11 million. Yeah.
It's not bad, is it, for a player that, hasn't even touched the grass for you yet? But and obviously
how
he went
much
on
did
to.
we sign him for? Was it like 4 million or something?
Not so much stupid. Yeah, it was cheap.
It was.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
It's all a bit of a
Just-
mad one. That I obviously we've all seen the picture, I think, but wasn't it? I did read somewhere that basically his head wasn't turned by Chelsea, but I think Ferguson was a little bit frustrated in the fact that he was very vocal about Chelsea and not just missing Chelsea. He was like, right, go then, something like that. I read that somewhere, and it was all a strange one.
Because he played for them. He played for them as a kid, didn't he? He was in their youth academy, and then they would let him go.
I'm not sure.
Not sure.
I'm sure that's the thing. Right. So then, if no one else has got an advancement, then we've got a decision to make again. You know, Zizou obviously is probably the best midfielder out of there, but is anyone going to challenge and wants to put anyone else in there?
I think for the timing of the Cruz deal under David Moyes would have been vital to that whole saga. It probably could have changed the trajectory we were heading at that time. So I'm gonna stick with Cruz on that one.
Yeah, good shout.
You know what? I'm not even against throwing Tony. Look, Zinedine Zidane is arguably the best midfielder of all time, but Tony Kroos isn't too far behind.
I love the crooner. I'll take the crooner all day long.
Yeah. All right. And you know what? And I think he gets bonus points for how close the deal actually was to being done. Like the fact that it was done and it got vetoed. So he's gone on to have an all right career though since, and he's
average.
Yeah, he's done all right. There's probably times that
he's the only player that Adidas make a specific pair of boots. He wears the Adi Pro 11s in white. Adidas have made them for the last 10 years. You can't buy him anymore. You used to be able to buy him. But there you go. Just a small bit of knowledge for you about the crooner. I love the crooner. He's great.
David Moyes was on TalkSport in 2018, and he said that Tony Kroos had agreed to come to United, and he'd agreed it with him. He'd spoken to his wife, met his wife, we'd all agreed, but then he decided to stay an extra year, and then of course it came up again, and then Louis van Gaal, as someone said in the comments, it was vetoed, and what a shame that is. I honestly, I think that's one of the signings that really still, one of the could-be's, that really still hurts me a bit, because he is a wonderful player.
Yeah. I mean, look at the longevity he's had. Do you know what I mean? And I think that one of the things that we really struggled with is obviously our forwards at the time struggled to receive the ball into their feet or whatever because we just didn't have anyone trying to find the passes to them. And if we'd have brought Kroos in at the same time that we then went on and brought in, I know he's a snake and stuff, but Angel Di Maria, Falcao coming off the back of that horrendous injury though. If you've got someone like Kroos that can put the ball in a six-man's foot for you, and you can still just find the back of the net, but I think that was the biggest thing for me under like the Moyes and the Van Gaal era was how nondescript our midfield were. There was no bite in there. Herrera was good, don't get me wrong, but outside of passion and tracking Hazard, he offered us very little at times. So, but again, this isn't an agenda show, so we're not here to tactically break down anything because otherwise someone's going to tell me that I'm wrong for saying Herrera didn't really offer us much outside of that. So, but right, Gaza and Kroos as the midfield two in our 4-4-2. Look.
Yeah,
that's a phenomenal midfield pair in there. Right mids or left mids? Who do you want to go for first?
I'll go in if that's all right. I'll do the left side first. Obviously, a typical one on a couple of occasions. Gareth Bale, I think on 3 occasions. We know how wonderful he was at Spurs. Real Madrid won everything. He was pivotal, regardless of whether you speak to Real Madrid fans. I think he was absolutely sensational. Unfortunately, with a few injuries. So obviously, I think a deal had been agreed for Bale just before he signed for Southampton, and then obviously eventually went on to Spurs. But instead we got Nani and Anderson. So it wasn't all doom and gloom for 30 million. So yeah. But
I'd still rather have had Gareth Bale.
Listen, but I'm trying to be optimistic. Do you know what I mean? But yeah.
Did we also sign Bebe not long after as well?
That's true.
So.
What a legend!
Yeah, well, literally. Yeah, could Gareth Bale do what Bebe did? Because I reckon Bebe could have won the Champions League in that Real Madrid side. But could Gareth Bale score the goals that Bebe did? I'm not sure. Right, Benny, I'm going to come to you.
Ivan Perisic was heavily linked with me a couple of years ago. So that I had him down on my list as on the left-hand side there. Perisic, being a left-handed sided player. And the other one is, again, people keep in the comments, you need to stop them, they keep stealing my ideas. Eden Hazard, but I'd rather have him off the right. I think he played better off the right, but he's another one that was heavily linked at that point. Another one that sort of gave us a boot in the rear end for Chelsea. But you know, I just think that Perisic one was the one that first sprang to mind. You know, give somebody a little bit more in the modern day era as well. That's still playing a little bit as opposed to maybe players that have retired now. So yeah, I'd probably shout out Perisic.
Yeah, good. Nathan.
Yeah, I had Bale and Hazard. Like Benny said, I think I would rather Hazard play off the other side. But I think Bale for me. Yeah,
nice. Stu,
Robin.
Yeah,
I was going right hand side as well.
I got Hazard down as well. So Hazard would play my right, Robin on my left, or you could intertwine those. The perfect combination of right and left. They're both. But for me,
I changed my mind.
You can't argue what Robin did. You just can't argue what he did.
I feel like we're doing too many inverted here because I've got all these players on the right hand side and you've got all these players on the left hand side. Let's stick to it, shall we, boys? Fuck's sake.
Right. All right. You know, before I come on to mine, Mark, go on, because I don't want to upset you here. You tell us.
He's getting upset, isn't he?
No, I'm not. I'm just pulling your legs. It's Sunday night. I've had a great day. It's great to be with you all, and I'm pleased with the season, and I'm pleased that we started the season. It's definitely been missed. To be honest with you, you mentioned Eden Hazard. Just give you a little bit of background on that. He said, I came to watch Lille play Lyon and followed Hazard, of course. This was Ferguson, along with other players. Alex Ferguson told RMC in 2012 he's a very good player who has many qualities. He's particularly fast over 10 yards. That summer, Hazard had a choice between City, Chelsea and United. He didn't want to go to City. It was very close to being United, but of course they won the Champions League. And to be honest with you, I thought about this at the time, actually. I remember vividly saying, I don't know why you'd go to a club that's just won the Champions League, very unlikely to win it again. And by this point, Real Madrid hadn't even, won it on the bounce. Eden Hazard, obviously I mentioned Ronaldinho earlier, but I really would put him in attacking midfield, I think. And then, of course, you've got, I'm just trying to see other ones I had written down earlier. Don't
forget, Mark, I've still got my notes to go through as well.
Before you start Googling. Sorry. No.
You've muted yourself. You've muted yourself, mate. He's going to have an aneurysm. We love you, Mark. We love you.
He muted me, I reckon. Bastard.
Yeah, the Hazard one for me again is a proper gut punch because obviously, like, what a wonderful player he ended up being. Let's not talk about his Real Madrid, and the issues he's had there for that period in the Premier League. The guy is rightfully so in the pantheon of Premier League greats. I like to think that I'm quite a sensible football fan. I don't let club agendas get in the way of simple facts. And for me, Eden Hazard is one of the best players to ever play in the Premier League. And the fact that we literally would agreed a fee with Lille, they'd announced that he had until I think it was July the 2nd to figure out what he wanted to do. And I think Chelsea just offered him a bit more money than we did. And like say, Mark, they'd won the Champions League, and then Fergie came out and said, "Yeah, well, 30 mil for a kid his age is a lot of money anyway."
He did say that.
He did, yeah.
So, but that was our Fergie, always trying to.
You were a safe face, wasn't he? He was just saving face. Swallow your pride a bit better. He could have done
transfer saga that time. I remember because I woke up and I was still at school, I think, at the time, or college. And he'd literally tweeted in the morning saying, "I've chosen my destination. I'll see you all later." And then we were all like, "What?" And then he tweeted in the evening saying, "I'm signing for the European champions." I was like, "Oh, well, that was a waste of time." But cheers for wasting your time.
That was one of the first ones, really. Like you had Griezmann back with Mourinho. They really were sort of trying to milk the whole social media thing, but that was the first one I really remember where you're right, he did tweet that and we were all just like, oh my god, what's he going to do? And the disappointment in the end, obviously.
Well, there was a weird little black spot for a while for transfers, wasn't there? Because it was like, we were talking backstage, I remember watching, looking at CFAX. I remember, coming downstairs or whatever, turning the TV on, going on to CFAX and looking at the football transfers, and you very rarely found anything out other than players signed, and it was like, oh right, okay, that's cool. And then there wasn't really a medium, apart from watching Sky Sports News for quite a few years as CFAX became sort of, non-usable or whatever, and it just became a bit irrelevant. And then obviously now we've got the social media bubble of every single movement has to be tracked. You've got I rate Fabrizio's work ethic and his work rate so much, but we don't need to know, man, that Moises Caicedo's just taking his pants off to have a poo. He's going to be thinking about Chelsea while he's on the toilet, or whether. Do you know what I mean? Like, just relax a little bit. And and the Hazard one massively. And I think that was a summer we signed Kagawa, wasn't it? That we then went out and signed Shinji instead.
Yeah.
He said Ferguson said we see a real value in Kagawa, and I think he was 23 million at the time, wasn't he, from Dortmund? Didn't quite work out for him in the end, but was really excited about him.
Yeah, always.
Probably after all the Eden Hazard stuff, probably got carried away.
Yeah. And this is also an interesting. We'll come on to Lewandowski, obviously, when we talk about the strikers. But yeah, there's a. And to be fair, on paper, it's not bad. Kagawa should have gone different, but RVP, man, I wouldn't have traded him for the world at that point. Right. So Dino is one of them. We could talk about Dino as in the left mid, but I'd like to. We can talk about maybe putting him in as a centre forward, and we can just let him have a little free roam around the attacking area. He can play as an attacking mid, if he wants to. He's one of those. We will discuss him at some point, Mark. Don't you worry. But I'm just trying to get. We're just trying to get the skeleton of the squad sorted, and then we can talk about him. For me, though, Eden Hazard is, if we're talking about the almost United 11 and players we missed out on, I'd go Eden Hazard on the left. I know obviously people talk about. I know. What's wrong, Mark? What's wrong?
I'm sorry, I'm being such a bastard tonight. You know what? I always have this debate with a few people, and before I was part of Devil's Advocate and the group chats, I used to have the similar chats with my other mates from down south, and I always, and it was just a personal opinion, perhaps a little bit of a frustrated one. Whilst he was one that we could have got, I never rated Hazard as much as everyone else did. And I know that's really controversial. He was a great player, but there was just some real fucking annoying things that he used to do. And obviously falling over, and I can't really explain it.
The most annoying thing he used to do was be really, really good for Chelsea.
Yeah, well, maybe that was what it was, and maybe I was just frustrated with it. But yeah, I always used to have this conversation. I'm probably wrong, and I'll take that one.
No, that's the thing with football, mate. There is no right or wrong opinion. Do you know what I mean? And people on social media sometimes need to learn that. Is that as long as your point is based around experience, you're not just turning around and saying I think this because I've read this. You have to actually have some grounds to back it up. I'm never going to tell you you were wrong. It's people's opinion.
So in age of transparency, in age of transparency on opinions, okay, Ronaldinho's not in my conversation. I just thought I'd bring that up now and just lay that out there. He's not in the conversation. He's not in the conversation.
I'm with Stu on that.
I just want to lay that out there. He's not in my conversation.
Right. You know how I just said with football, there's no right or wrong.
That's wrong.
You both immediately proved me wrong. Like, I hurt my head that, but we'll come on to that. We'll come on to that. Save that thought. So I think, for now, let's talk about two, a left mid and a right mid. And I've put my case forward for Eden Hazard. Mark's obviously disagreed with me. Mark, would you like to suggest someone else? You're going to tell me Gareth Bale?
Yeah, listen, I think all of them are a good shout. I was really disappointed about Bale the first time round, I think. I think that he's one of those as well when you look at it. If he, and this is no discredit to Spurs, but I really feel at that point we had such a good way of bringing in and embedding youth players. I just feel that maybe we might have had a bit more from him even. And I know he was amazing, but in a United team, I think he would have absolutely been a world beater, is my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, famously,
More
Gareth Bale
of,
was not.
more of.
I was about to say was not a world beater. You know,
More
that
of
goal
world
he
beater.
scored.
Mark, as much as I love you, dude, I can't back Bale. I'm so sorry, mate.
Nathan, are you free in a couple of weekends for a meal? I've got spare tickets.
Get a candlelit one.
I can't back Bale. I'm sorry. I know. He had that monstrous season with Tottenham, and he was outstanding in the Super Cup and the Copa del Rey, etc. for Madrid. But I can't back him. I'm sorry.
We can all be wrong sometimes, can't we?
Yeah, Benny, I'm going to come to you and let you give a piece for. Would you rather go for Bale or for Hazard on the left?
This is where it's gonna really annoy me, because Hazard the one football that I really despised was Hazard when he was at Chelsea, because all he ever did was roll around on the floor. But no doubt he was a decent player, but he flopped big time at Real Madrid. You know, so
he's not wrong, is he? He's not wrong.
It's true though. He flopped big time at Real Madrid for all the big talk. So if I had to pick one out of the two, it'd have to be Bale. I'll have to go with Mark again.
I'll tell you what, Benny, I love you.
Oh, Jamie, you don't have to vote here. We've got.
I can see Stu going to Ben. I was see Stu going, Benny. I thought we were boys, you know.
I thought we were. Oh, dear.
So I think Nathan, I think you're right. I think I've got the deciding vote here. You know, we've got two Hazards, two Bales. And I feel bad because
don't forget Robin.
God, shoot.
Don't forget Robin.
Robin, I reckon right. Right.
Yeah, Robin's on the right. Yeah.
But I feel really bad because I feel like Mark keeps putting his opinion across for players, and I keep going, "Shut up, Mark. We're picking something else."
If this is your third strike, Jamie, we're gonna have to have words, sunshine. So
right.
Please,
you know what?
Please.
Fine.
Even though I went on, you know, a little bit of a poetic ramble about how imperious Eden Hazard was and how I think he's in the pantheon of the greats, and he's, you know, I don't think Chelsea have come close to replacing him or whatever. I'll back you with Bale then.
Yes,
he's
get in.
He's had a career that most people can only dream of. You know, and it's one of those that I think he was a phenomenal footballer. That, for me, obviously, everyone bangs on about the overhead kick against Liverpool in the Champions League final, and obviously that's a ridiculous goal. But it was that one he scored against Barcelona where he ran off the pitch and still managed to cut through. I think was it against Sergio Roberto or someone that he absolutely skinned him. And I think it just summed him up as a player. And I think he got such a bad rap at Real Madrid, and they've done that a few times. And I hope he's playing golf somewhere nice, and I hope he's having a lovely time. A phenomenal footballer, the second best Welsh player to ever play in the Premier League, behind Hal Robson-Kanu. So, you know. And then right. So Mark, you can rest assured there. I've backed you up, and you can relax.
I'm going to sleep well tonight, mate. Thank you.
Good. And then on the right, we all agreed that we're going to throw Iron Robin in there because it was concrete talks as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think I've got the notes. Yeah, that it was when he was at PS. Say again.
He was at training ground, wasn't he, Robin?
Yeah. Fergie met him and stuff like that. He'd spoken and they'd sorted it out. It was ready to go, and then apparently we just literally ghosted him and just stopped talking to him, which I feel a bit bad for. Again, he had a decent career in the end, so I don't think it impacted him that much. A lot of the players on this list, it's almost as if, you know, we had a decent talent ID back in the day.
I know.
Right, and then we'll move on, and we'll go through to there's two striker positions up for grabs now. The Dino one, because we've gone to 4-4-2 just to suit the fact that we were playing a lot of classic players. It was suiting a Fergie formation. Dino was a tricky one to try and shoe on in. Now, Stu, I know you've said he's not in the conversation for you, but he is definitely in the conversation for me. Oh, yeah, Nathan agreed with you as well. He is definitely in the conversation for me and for Mark. Benny, is he in the conversation for you?
Yes, I think so. But I've got to throw some out there. Marcelo Salas. from River Plate in 1997.
Oh, yes.
Ferguson wanted him to drop the pounds, if you will, drop the price a little bit. I think they wanted around 12 million quid back then, but I think Ferguson was quite sold on that. Mm-hmm. But I thought he was a terrific centre forward. Salas, that was one of my picks, but I don't know. But I don't know if I'll have Ronaldinho up top.
No,
I'm a bit of an old school. When you're thinking about people like David Hurst as well, and
he's on my list.
He's on your list as well. But I thought he might be. Good old centre forwards.
Regis.
Just to clarify, what I'm suggesting is with Dino is that he wouldn't be a striker.
I know what you mean. So he's sitting just behind him. He's like a number 10 type thing.
A false 9 back in 2005.
And it's only a suggestion, right? We've got 2 positions left, haven't we, right? Why don't we go around the panel, ask for your 2 suggestions, and then we can start debate on that.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I'm going to start us off before anyone steals my thunder, because one of my favourite players of all time, and we were heavily linked with him, and it never came through, was Gabriel Batistuta.
I had him as well.
He's on my list.
Look at that. Look at that. And I think, and that would have been phenomenal. And what did I write down in my prep notes? That in 2000 he was quoted as saying that he would love to join Manchester United if he ever left Fiorentina. And the fact that again, he was quintessential. Like when I think about like the good old days of football, he's just there. He looks handsome. He scores goals for fun, and he was I think he was the perfect player for Fergie's system, and it just never materialised. So for me, Batistuta would be the one. I know there's going to be some other shouts in here that we're going to have a good conversation with, but I really liked Batistuta. And then Dino would then play as the second centre forward. He would drop into the 10. I think the fact that it was raining. The rumours are that it was raining when he landed in Manchester. He saw the weather and went, "Yeah, no, fuck this. I'm off to Spain instead." What else? Where is it? It was when Fergie came out and blamed Peter Kenyon and said that Peter Kenyon failed to get the deal done when Peter Kenyon was chief exec. And I think it was Fergie wasn't used to tasting defeat when it came to chasing players, but we ended up with a couple with Gaza and with Dino. And I think I liked, was it Trevor's comment before that said that Dino would have been the first ever Brazilian to play for United, and instead it ended up being Kleberson. So there's my arguments. Batistuta, Ronaldinho. Benny, we'll come to you next.
I've already said about Salas, so the other one would be Alan Shearer. I know I said David Hurst as well, but I think Alan Shearer, absolutely Ferguson absolutely went out his way to try and get Shearer, but of course he went to his hometown football club. We all know what happened after that. Won Naffall at Newcastle. So his loss, yes, he's got the Premier League goal scoring record. It looks like now it's going to be safe now that Mr. Kane's gone over to Bayern Munich. But I think Shearer's a decent shout, mate. If you want an proper old school, old fashioned centre forward, can score your screams, can score your free kicks, can score your penalties, score your headers. Very good with his back to play as well.
A wonderful celebration.
Yeah. But I don't know what to show about the celebration. It's probably the most boring celebration in all of world football ever. But but as a footballer, he's a brilliant. And Salas was all my days. When I was a kid and he was linked, I was like, I hope we get Salas. I love Salas. And it was not just because of his nice, lovely, long, dark hair, I just thought he was a quality centre forward. Would have given us something a little bit different up top as well, some of that a little bit of flair that we probably wouldn't at that point wouldn't necessarily seen. From a Chilean footballer, I just thought that, this guy could finish. He got pace on him as well. Played off always. If I remember correctly, he always played off the shoulder of the last man. He had pace to burn. His finishing was top class as well. So, I'd definitely go for my 2 shouts, Salas and Shearer.
Nice. Also, I really like, and just quickly to come off it, am I missing something with this comment? Because it was Diego Simeone that Beck kicked, wasn't it?
I think Batistuta was when it obviously when there was all scrambling around. Batistuta was in that sort of melee, wasn't he, a little bit?
Yeah,
and that's probably where he's probably maybe said that.
The only person that got Beckham sent off at the World Cup was David Beckham. But we moved past that. He scored the goal against Greece. And he's dead handsome, so he's done all right as well. Well, yeah, cheers for your suggestions, Benny. Salas and Shearer, I like it. Nathan, 2 of yours.
Right, so Benny took one of mine and you took one of mine, and it's Battistuta and Alan Shearer. They were my 2 that I could only come up with. I did have a soft inkling for Lewandowski, but those 2 were my 2 big shouts, Battistuta and Alan Shearer, purely for that goal celebration for Shearer. I mean, come on.
Yeah, an agreement with that.
The two good shouts. Mark.
Yeah, so I had Battistuta and Shearer. I think other mentions are Erling Haaland twice, immediately after coming from Mulder, and then again from Dortmund. We had an opportunity, not so much Dortmund, but a couple of times before that, and we could have got him for 15 million. Obviously, Ollie worked very closely with Mulder. And that's a shame. Listen, he's had one good season, phenomenal. And listen, as United fans, we can still watch it and say he's absolutely unbelievable. He really, really is. So that's obviously a shame. Antoine Griezmann, again, just another sort of honourable mention. As I said, Battistuta I've already mentioned, and there was one more I had. I can't remember now. So yeah, you took my first 2 anyway. Battistuta and Shearer was great 2 picks there.
Nice. Stu.
Well, as you can imagine, my list is long and distinguished.
Yeah, you're going to tell us Dixie Dean.
Yes. Well, I am going to talk about Dixie, Kerry Dixon. We were linked with him back in '86, and he was an absolute phenomenal striker. David Hurst, I had at 92. What a finisher. Big Cyril Regis at 86 would have been a game changer for us. Who else did I have? Patrick Kluivert, we agreed in 98, 9 mil deal for him. It fell through. Alan Shearer, of course. So he's probably he's in the side, isn't he? But my pick. Oh, sorry, I went with Rivaldo, Griezmann, Lewandowski. All of these. But my pick to go alongside Sir Shearer is original Ronaldo. We bid 20 million for him in his PSV days.
What a shout! And
that is by far, with all due respect to all of you, partnership. Original Ronaldo and Shearer would be fucking unstoppable.
Yeah. I can't argue with that.
I had Battistuta on my list, and I couldn't square Battistuta over Ronaldo. Unfortunately, Jamie, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, you know what I said. We all agreed that Gaza was the shoe-in, but I started off with that. I'm happy to relinquish Battistuta. A shout out here as well. Julio has mentioned him twice. Morata dyeing his hair red was absolutely hilarious. He's also poor kid. He's also not a footballer. Do you know what I mean? He's a front for money laundering.
Stu, I'll tell you what Morata is by dyeing his hair red.
Sorry.
I said you've got a word for someone that dyes their hair red, isn't it, Stu?
To be fair, the R9 ones I didn't think were concrete, so that's why I didn't get on my list. R9 is the most talented striker that has ever existed.
PSV, I think it was a PSV at the time. I think it was about.
Can I shout another one that I've just popped into me? Paolo Di Canio as well. But no, I'm not having it on the list. But Paolo Di Canio was one.
Yeah, he was there. Yeah, he was there.
Some boy.
Can I also say another left midfielder, which I forgot to mention tonight? Please.
Hey, leave him alone, everyone. Go on, Mark. I'm the
honestly, everyone in the comments, right? You should see the group chats. They bully me all the time. No, I'm only playing. For someone on the left-hand side, Del Piero. We were extremely close to getting him. I think he had several conversations with Ferguson. I can't remember the full story exactly, but we were very, very close. And Dybala, actually, that was the last one I had on the list. Thanks, Julio.
We were close as well, don't you guys, to good old Sagari Lineker in 88. Very close to Lineker. The Shearer one, he phoned up Ferguson and said he was going to sign. And then on the Wednesday of the following week, he decided to go to Newcastle because Keegan asked for one last meeting.
We tried to get him before he went to Blackburn as well.
We did from Southampton, 3-0, yeah.
And he said no at that point. He'd already spoken to Kenny Dalglish at the time.
Gave his words, yeah.
Yeah, gave his words. That's 2 times. And I you know what? We talk about it a few times, and I think everyone it will be a classic. But I really feel like Shearer is another one that probably regrets that. Imagine if we had him. Oh my God, the goals would have been ridiculous.
Richard James has come up with Paul McStay, and I'd forgotten about that. And he was a hell of a finisher. McStay was very instinctive in the box. It's a good shout, that, Rich. I have to say, mate. Good shout.
So what I'm hearing from all of this then is that we're going to settle on R9, on Ronaldo Nazario and Alan Shearer. The Geordie's going to love that one.
Yeah.
So then my proposal then would be, even though it's the only player that I had vetoed and agreed with Mark on, is that we remove Bale from the side and slip Dino in as the left winger.
There you go.
Just because I don't.
So sad.
I know it's not that I don't think that he was a phenomenal player. It's more the fact of I think we were closer to signing Ronaldinho than we ever were to signing Gareth Bale. But I'm happy to omit Dino from this side.
Well, my admission of Dino was based on R9, as you probably could work that out now. That's why he wasn't in my conversation. And look at the players we've said no to. Rivaldo. Anyone would take Rivaldo. Anybody would take Rivaldo. Back in the day, anyone would have had Lineker. Les Ferdinand, Benny.
Yeah, big Les, yeah.
Before he went to
to be fair, my son got a picture of big Les Ferdinand. To go a bit off topic, we met him at the services after watching United in Edinburgh.
I saw you post that the other day, actually. Yeah.
Nice to see him. Top man.
You'd have Lewandowski, wouldn't he? Walk into anything. Yeah. Some of the players, Cesc Fabregas, at the time when we were linked with him. Batistuta, look, I totally agree.
Batistuta, I love the guy.
Oh yeah, he just was
Perisic
so good
was
to
a good
watch.
time. Perisic,
yeah.
Ballack, Kluivert at the time at 9-0, he was knocking them in left, right, and centre.
Yeah, phenomenal player.
So Raul, we forgot about Raul as well.
Yeah. We had an opportunity in, was it 2013? He went to Schalke.
Like that. Yeah.
We ended up having Michael Owen. No, it was before that, wasn't it? We ended up getting Michael Owen.
What you guys don't
2009, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Of course it was, because it was when Ronaldo left.
Yeah. When Benny was talking about David Hurst, he was quality for Sheffield Wednesday back then. He was a really tough striker. Strong, big. Good side, though. We've got a good side.
We've got a team of 15, haven't we?
I was going to say, who's on the bench? Who's on the bench here? I'm going to Oliver Kahn or Manuel Neuer on the bench as the second goalkeeper.
Kahn's brilliant keeper.
I'd forgotten about Kahn, so I would back Kahn. I'd forgotten about it. I thought we were linked.
Fantastic goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Right, we'll take a centre half on the bench. I tell you what, we'll put Virgil van Dijk in there as the sub to appease, because we had a lot of conversation.
Yeah, because we had a bit of a thing. I'd go for that to appease people.
Well, Mark won't be happy with that.
We'll take.
What's happened?
Nothing. We're putting Van Dijk on the bench. Centre mid on the bench. Who are we taking? Zizou.
Zidane,
yeah. 100%. To be honest, he should be in the team. I'm really sorry, guys, but he should be in the.
No, it's more. Again, I think it's more just we gave Cruz the extra push just because he was literally done and dusted, and then for some reason it fell through. So I'm not claiming that he's a better player. And you know what? Yeah, Julio's right. I'm gonna nominate Schneider here. He deserves a testimonial at United, given how much he was with us.
He's been here 10 years, isn't he?
I think so. Yeah.
He's been ball boy for 10 years.
Yeah.
Flight reserved on every flight coming into Manchester, just in case.
Oh yeah, literally. And then I'm just going to suggest one last spot on the bench for Ronaldinho, because apparently I'm not allowed to put him in the squad according to some people.
Did Bale get in? Yeah.
Bale got in. Bale's in.
Wonderful.
So the final team is starting in goal is Neville Southall. We've got a back four of Philip Lahm, Lilian Thuram, Cannavaro, and Stuart Pearce. Midfield four, Robin on the right, Gareth Bale on the left, Tony Kroos and Gaza in the middle. And then up top, a ridiculous partnership of Alan Shearer and Ronaldo Nazario.
Crazy.
And all players that have come at some point close to signing for United. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not just us picking up players that are linked. They're all people that have had genuine connections to and nearly come through the club. Whoa. Right. It's been an hour and 15 minutes, but what an hour and 15 minutes that's been. I've really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
It is 24 minutes past 9 on a Sunday night. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. Plenty of honourable mentions here in the comments. Mehdi Benatia, it's a name I forgot completely about. Ended up going to Bayern, didn't he? And just didn't really work out for him. He ended up retiring not too long later.
Can I just add, Jake? Can I just add? Sorry, I just want to add the shout of the whole night was Benny's Marcelo Salas. That is going to be brilliant. That was phenomenal.
I only remember it because as a kid, as I said before, I was absolutely buzzing about,
I think we should put him on the bench purely on that. We should just put him on the bench for that. Phenomenal.
Yeah, very good shout.
Forgotten about Salas. Completely forgotten about it.
Yeah, absolutely fun. I mean, there's some great shouts across the board for us all there, and some nice little throwbacks. Thank you all for joining me on the panel. It's been brilliant. Well, obviously, we're going to do some more of these throughout the season to keep your eye out. Mark's obviously got his review show tomorrow. But before we come on to that quickly, the 1958 have obviously released the details for their next protest against the ownership. It's a new season, but obviously the aims are the same against the ownership, and that is Glazers out, simple as. 6:30 tomorrow PM at the Trinity statue, and there'll be a 60-minute sit-in post-game as well to send a message that the Glazers need to pack up and just go somewhere that isn't Manchester. Mark said it in a less poetic way than I did. So if you get your flags out, get your banners out, and let's make sure that we have a good presence at the first game of the season. Might not be on TV because they always seem to find a way to miss out all the Glazers out stuff, but we'll see. Mark, do you want to quickly brief about your review tomorrow?
Yeah, so obviously we're back to normal now, and that means match reviews are back as well. So tomorrow night, obviously, of course, about 10:15, 10 o'clock, we'll have to wait and see. But we'll be doing a match reaction. Stu's coming on with me, Jamie's coming on with me, and one other person. So we will see you then, hopefully.
Brilliant. Cheers, Mark. Thank you, everyone, for joining us at some point or another. Obviously, it'll go up. Please watch it back. I don't know why I'm saying this because you'll have to have watched this back to hear this bit. But what a team we've picked. Keep your eyes posted for the next OT Theory because we'll have more nonsense, more ridiculous conversations, and less agendas and more positivity. But until next time, we'll see you later. Enjoy the weekend and up the Reds.